Welcome back to the 2024 Tire Rack One Lap of America, presented by Grassroots Motorsport Magazine, with coverage brought to you by Hooked on Driving, Everyday Driver, and the Valente Group. Bryan and I are joined by the man, the myth, the legend, and the person in need of paint, Brock Yates Jr. Welcome, Brock.
Oh, thank you, and please, and thank you for pointing out the paint. I started painting about a year and a half ago, and yeah, that was about as far as I got. But anyway, always good.
Nice.
I don't care. But
So,
welcome everybody. It's good to talk to you guys. Thank you for the opportunity.
as effervescent as ever, let's kick off with the celebratory part. So, this is 40 years, which means that you're now 40 years old. So, congratulations on that birthday. Um, Tell us about number one. I mean, is this sort of where the event is this where you had envisioned it going? I mean, it's 40 years in. Tell us about what it means to you.
I don't, I don't think anybody that did the first year or two thought it was an event that was going to last more than about an hour. Between the thinly disguised cannonball runs between checkpoints, between the lack of any real competitions, between the lack of any real purpose. I mean, it was just a giant lark to begin with. Oh yeah, let's drive around the periphery of the country and see what happens. Yeah, it was fun. It was great. I mean, it got to places that most people don't go. But no, I think once the manufacturers started to enter, once there was a inkling of some competitions, once we hooked up with the SCCA for sanctioning, it opened the doors for some competition events, pretty low key, pretty low speed, and mostly TSDs, regularity runs, things, really boring things, and things that required the most argumentative types of people ever. Rally people are, notorious for breaking down the structure and word of every sentence to gain an advantage, and it got very tiresome. Um, but when Brock and Tolley conspired in '89 to let us run Hallett as a regular SCCA single lap time trial, it kind of changed everything, especially when nobody died. Everybody had a great time. And over time, we started playing with the formula and found out that 3 laps is about it. And now we started doing 2 events at one track and shortening the distances. And it became a much more fun, much safer, much more competitive event rather than a bunch of luck and see what happens.
And we'll hit on it first because you kind of mentioned it, and it's a good segue. But I know, having done this with you for almost 20 years now, I mean, safety is the key element that's going through your mind. I mean, I know you don't sort of relax until the awards are handed out and everybody's back. And the event itself has had a pretty phenomenal record over the past 4 years. Why don't you talk to us about what goes into that and how you personally view it? And sort of, we've talked about track selection in the past, but just in general, your stance on it.
I think that the overriding thing that I try to project is uh, caring about everybody and not wanting to write the letter. I want everybody to have a good time. I want everybody to get through it. If you break along the way, at least you're safe. I want, so I really care for these people, and I take a great deal of responsibility for what happens on track or on the highways, as it turns out. So we've slowly instituted as many safety issues or safety equipment as we can. Uh, we limited it to 3 laps, which is pretty much the extent of a street tire. We don't do practices, and we could kind of not discourage, but the people that pre-run the event, test all the racetracks. It's not really in the spirit, because part of the challenge here is to get to a racetrack that you've never been on before, and attack it as best you can, leaving ideally something in reserve. Um, and that formula, and being an 8-day endurance event, allows us to maintain a high level of safety. If it was a series of sprint races with a standard practice and a qualifying, and then the event, even in a time trial format, our carnage would probably at least double because there would be a certain confidence imbued that they didn't have before. And I take pride in the fact that the insurance companies like me because of our record. FC or SVRA and now NASA trust me enough that they don't have to send a representative around to make sure that we're doing it right. And again, our accident record, yes, we've bent up some cars, but we've never hurt anybody, thank goodness. And I hope that remains the case as these cars get stupider and stupider fast. Um, which is why I instituted the head and neck restraints, because if you're going to go that fast, you might as well have every protection.
Sure. I think it's one of those common sense additions, as are some of the other changes that we've been making over the years. But one of the real thing that comes about is the proliferation of DE days. I mean, Hooked on Driving, who's been kind enough to come aboard again this year, and a host of other track days that are out there. When that formula was sort of put in place, there weren't as many out there. Now there's a whole bunch of them, and it's easier for people to get the tracks.
Well,
So, yeah,
Brock
go
and
ahead.
Melfi are responsible for that business because when we ran Hallett and we started running one lap as a on track event, it showed to the various sanctioning bodies that street cars could go on there without bursting into flames or automatically dying. And it birthed Track Time and Car Guys and a bunch of other companies early on. And it really exploded the business that, tracks, when we started this event, we'd call them up basically the day before. We're coming in. Okay, nothing's going on. And now that's not the case, as everybody knows.
Yeah, so as we've seen that evolve over the years, and similar what we've been talking about on a few of the interviews, is that as the transit instances have become less, as we've done more track time, it's become, and I think you've mentioned this in the past, a fairly heavy, serious motorsport competition. So we're seeing vehicles, as you put it, that are ridiculously quick, and they keep getting quicker. In addition to cars that are a little bit more high strung, and I know that's sort of been a point of, I would say, anxiety for you at times because of the speeds and the potential for something bad happening. So how do you balance that?
Um, Drugs, a lot of anxiety medicines. I don't know if anybody, the people who've known me for many, many years notice I tended to smoke a lot more during the event. Now I've gotten rid of that. Now I vape a lot more. But no, I have to admit there's a great deal of stress involved. Not mostly out of fear for people and their health. I mean, do I give a shit about cars crashing? No, not whatsoever. That's part of the business. You're gonna press the button and you're gonna back into a wall. Well, that's have a nice day. At least you're okay. It's only metal, as Bill Simpson once said. That said, I mean it's yeah, pleasing, keeping the sponsors happy, keeping it a good event, keeping everybody happy, making sure that it runs smoothly. And thankfully, I've got a spectacular crew and also I have a spectacular client. Well, I don't know if clientele, but clientele. The competitors, I have a great deal of pride in the fact that if I didn't show up, the event would run just fine. If the timing crew didn't show up, somebody would get a stopwatch out and the event would still run. I mean,
And we've done that.
yeah. I mean, it's just that everybody knows what to do. Everybody's there for a good time. Everybody's willing to pitch in. And when Cindy was starting to get sick, I was delighted for everybody to step up and offer to take my place if necessary. And No, it's a very heartening thing. And I'm very proud of the people that show up here because we're here for the right reasons and have fun. And if you're not, like we've seen numerous times in the past, you don't come back.
All right, Brian, what do you got?
Yeah, so Tire Rack and GRM have been paramount in their support of the event over the years. What are some of the biggest things that you've seen grow with their participation and sponsorship of the event since their involvements?
Well, tire rack is pivotal to the entire event because not only do they supply the tires, but they also supply a great deal of advice and to me and to all the competitors. Um, we run a very safe event based on partly based on their guidance and their help. Um, Grassroots Motorsports has just hit the market that we needed, and it's elicited not the not hundreds of more entrants because I can't take them, but it's exposed it to enough people that think that sitting in a car for 8 days is a good idea. No, it's an invaluable. Both are invaluable partnerships. Matt has recently retired. He has been just like a father to me for all of his advice. And John Rastetter before that uh, knew more about tires than any other 12 people in the business that you'll ever know. And Woody has taken over for both of them basically. And he's been, I couldn't do it without them. Tim and Tom Sutter and David Wallens have been very, very supportive. Um, I mean, whatever I want. The matter of fact, I think I'm driving around New York State with Tim in July for some silly rally. So that'll be interesting.
There you go. So let's stay on the sponsor side for a minute because we've got obviously Tire Rack, Grassroots Motorsport Magazine. We've got the guys from Everyday Driver who have been really great in helping to promote the event now, and they just picked up Hooked on Driving. NASA, our sanctioning body, DEI, Parts Farm, Valente Group, Garmin, Safe Haven Defense, Project Motoring. And we've been, I think, fortunate over the past few years or more than that. I mean, a lot of our sponsors are long term. I mean, multi-year sponsors who have really partnered and seen the value in the event and supported it.
They have been, and it's great to have Garmin on for another year, and Armor and all the rest. I mean, it takes sponsors to run this event. It also, I think, provides a certain benefit for them. I think it's a good trade-off.
So, do you think you would ever just go out and compete to just have some fun? Because you usually knock the wet skid pad out of the ballpark when you're showing people how to do it. And in fact, Brian, what car was it that he's supposed to do it in this year?
It was the Tesla, wasn't it? Wasn't
Yeah.
it the Plaid?
Yeah. So
Plaid?
Here's the deal. So we did the interview with Andrew and Chad, and they were talking about how they always do poorly on the wet skid pad. And I said, well, you have no excuse for that. I said, here's the deal. We'll give the keys to Brock or the card to Brock and let him do the show, in terms of how to do the skid pad with your car. Let's see what he gets. And if you don't beat him, you automatically lose 50 points.
Well, considering I've never driven a Tesla, oddly enough, and depending on what the computer settings are, if you can use the brake and the throttle at the same time, which I think is probably impossible in those cars, because I left foot brake, and that's the key that I do. And if you watch my brake lights, they flash all the way around the circle as I'm trying to take away the understeer. Like that said, I'm good. Randy Popes is still smarting from the time I beat him. The Michelin Goodyear team on the Corvette, I beat them like rented babies in a minivan. But no, I'm not. I have no interest in competing. I periodically think about going out to a track day, but the first thing I would need is about 3 days of coaching to get back to anywhere near I was because if you don't do it, you lose the edge, and you lose the feeling, and you, the approaching the limits just aren't as comfortable as they used to be. So, uh, no, I'm perfectly happy to be retired, and being a wealth, I hope, of some information and some guidance to the new people. But whether or not that, any advice I give is worthy or valid is another question altogether.
Well, if it's anywhere near along the lines of the parenting advice that I've received from you over the years, let's see here: grease the tub with bacon fat, so this way
Well,
they can't climb out.
it still work. You just put them in naked, so you just hose them off periodically. I mean, it doesn't. It's not high science stuff.
Brock has been a Dr. Spock for me for the past 11 years now. It's been wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, that's why they invented Velcro and duct tape. I mean, for kids.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, it's when when they're
Lean
young,
is still good, right?
yeah, when they're young and you don't have something to carry them with, you duct tape one arm to one leg and throw them over your shoulder.
I'm gonna have to remember to click this video is not made for children when we upload this later.
Definitely.
Parental guidance suggested.
Exactly. Yeah. I can just hear YouTube on this one. It's like you had this video. FBI is gonna show up to everybody's door.
Well, I think I told you years ago I wanted to start the child labor newsletter, and I guess that would work in southern states now because they keep.
Yes, but you meant that's the newsletter to find child labor.
Well, yes, my child is no longer labor, nor child.
Yeah. All right, so getting back to the actual event that has your name on it, I mean, there's a clear legacy going on. You've taken the ball and have changed a little bit more. What do you see the legacy of the event as moving forward as well?
Well, I'd like to think that we the event persists, but in the same spirit that we managed to keep for the last 15 years. Brock thought of it as a serious motoring event and treated everybody that way. And I came in as a more recreational or more understanding of discretionary spending and people coming here for fun. And I think I've been able to balance the needs of both. Um, and much more. I think much more compassion, much more understanding about what is happening and what people are going through. Um, but I'd like to think that the legacy is going to be the same level of camaraderie, sportsmanship that has been the hallmark of the event since the beginning. I'd like to think that people will remain somewhat sensible on the racetrack, going quickly but not overstepping because it is an 8-day event. Um, I'd like to think that we will have a fabulous mix of cars, not just the homogeneous, stupidly fast cars. The Sports GT1 and Sports GT2 fields are basically three-quarters of the field this year. And I know I'm not going to add any more trophies because I got too many of them. I'd rather if somebody brought more vintage or more special construction or more well, nobody's retro this year. I mean, I'd like to diversify the field, you know. But other than that, I mean, people are going to bring what they bring, and as long as everybody has a good time and is safe, I think that's a great legacy.
Awesome. Bryan, what do you got?
So we already know that just from the video today that you are a professional cat herder. So what is what is your biggest challenge during the week of the event?
Um, Drones, fucking drones, and scooters, powered scooters. No, I I think that once the event rolls, I don't I don't really have the challenge other than the anxiety for safety or for making sure everybody finishes. The driving, the driving is so much a second nature for me. Hell, the other day I flew to Birmingham and picked up a truck and trailer and drove it all the way to Kansas just for fun. Yes, I got paid for it, but I had nothing better to do. And and I drive to LA tomorrow if somebody, if somebody needed. But no, that part, and Dan makes it easy because we just kind of trundle down the highway at whatever speeds we go. Dan Neal, and the crews, because of the delegation uh, that I'm notorious for, do such a fabulous job that I really don't have to do much except for, put out fires. The last challenge I really had as far as the organization was the time that Lee Keen got a tire from Hugh during Daytona,
Yeah.
and everybody was, cheating. Oh God, and I just made a decision. I thought it was, I thought it was the right one, and then a couple of years ago, for safety, I gave Toyota a break, and in that case, I made I created the Andy Broadfield rule about corded tires, and but no, we're the challenges really are the biggest challenge I have is finding the tracks, and that's the hardest part. And after that, it's all kind of rote.
Right. Right. All right, Bryan. Anything else?
Yeah. Who are your most memorable one lap characters? It can be more than one person. During that have showed up during the previous 39 years of the event.
Oh Jesus God! I mean, there's an encyclopedia of weird people that have run this event. I mean, we uh, cannonball people, great racers, bad racers, stupid people. Um, the No, I don't. I really don't have anybody that stands out as really being that. Yeah, we have great personalities like Hickman and Dubler. We have wonderful weird people like Howard. Um, we have such nice people through the field that unless you do something profoundly stupid, I'm not. Everything is fine. Um, no, I mean nobody. I mean everybody has a story. Everybody has a different way of running it. Everybody has interfaced with me in one way or the other. And I mean, we've had great people that have passed. We've had, the Baron. We've had, Hugh that kind of fell off the face of the planet. Uh, we really nobody stands out as a really compelling personality. There's some, the we've had some twits that showed up that think they're better than everybody else, and but they don't come back, and that's okay with me, But
The fact that Brock cannot point out somebody like Howard and say that they're standout personalities or the Baron tells you this is called being desensitized, folks, after 40 years of these personalities.
I mean, if you pick a particular year, I'll tell you a particular character, but we had Rocky Aoki several times that I wanted to kill on occasion. But I also dated his PR lady, so I can't say that much. We had.
Is that why the back of that Porsche was so terrible?
Yeah,
because I've seen Chris Parker posting that all the time. Look, somebody should buy it.
Another story for another day. But I am.
Part two tomorrow.
Theoretically, I met my wife through a meeting at her sister there in one lap. I mean, we've got, we've been to so many racetracks and seen so many people um, that really none stand out as being extraordinarily weird, crazy. Because first of all, it takes a certain amount of craziness to think this is a good idea. The old line about going into a cocktail party and somebody says, "What do you do for fun?" and you tell them, and they walk away, just shaking their head. I mean, it's rightfully so, probably, but.
Yeah. So let's talk about.
I've got a follow up to that, Solomon.
Yep.
So talking about everyone's has a story. Over the past 13 years, I've heard some of your stories, and they are all legendary. Any thoughts of sitting down and writing those stories down to share with everybody?
I'd much rather share in a conversation the memories I have. I'm not a good writer. I don't care to write. The writing gene passed through me to my cousin Tim Wendell that has written like 20 books. Um, the son my father should have had. But no, I periodically think about it, but so much of my memory is contextual. Some of it I just can't draw it. It has to be in a conversation, or something has to trigger that particular memory. It's not something that I can do chronologically. Oh, in '84 this happened, and in '85 I was, it just my brain doesn't work that way. I was 66
So,
years old when I was diagnosed
audiobook.
with ADHD, so I'm over it.
Very good. So back to the event itself. There's obviously the driver component. There's you, Bryan, myself, but the event, outside of the sponsors, and we talked about them for a little bit, but the timing crew. So let's give them a little bit of love and the people in the back end. I know, like right now, Missy's working her butt off to try and get everybody in and get all the information in. So let's talk about everybody on the back end that we
Right.
generally don't talk about too much, right?
Missy has been with me since the beginning, and with Brock 10 years or so before that. She makes everything happen. I could not do it without her. At the same time, for those tuning in, she has a full-time job as a nurse. She is a union representative for her union, and she's doing one last stuff. Get your stuff in. Otherwise, she is going to kill you at registration, and I won't blame her.
And she knows how, and she has access to drugs and needles.
Yeah, she's one of those women, or one of those people that I'm not sure I'd be happy to see pissed off. So of course she's seen
She scares me.
she's seen me pissed off on a couple of occasions, and ran too. So um, yeah, the time that Brock and I had a giant fight at RRP, she was just beside herself. But anyway, the timing crews. Scotty Carlborn has been with us for 30. This is his 39th year. He worked the first TSD section in Houghton in '85, and has been, I don't know what's wrong with him, in terms of probation or something. He's been with us ever since. Mark and Chip, the starters, and much more than starters. So fabulous people, fabulous friends, really know what the fuck's going on. They really do their jobs well. Chris Pockert and his two has been with us forever. We're starting to bring in the second generation of kids. Chip's kid and Mark's kid worked for us for a while, and both of them. We had we now have Matt Howard, which is revolutionizing our timing system. Yes, I have problems here.
So we'll have some live timing this year, I think, right?
We have live timing at the tracks he's working. He hasn't.
Yep.
He hadn't had a chance to clue Scotty and James Bialis, who's also coming along. Usually our timer, but he's going to be learning from Matt this year. And Spencer and all the other
Andy, we've got Andy, right?
Andy has been with us forever too. I mean, I think he lives in Austin and he dies to get out of periodic.
Nice. But yeah, I mean, but we talk about the event, and unfortunately, we don't get a chance to talk to them as much during the day because they're doing what they need to do during the event.
Mhm.
But yeah, as Brock said, I mean, just integral to the event at every level, right?
Right. I mean, again, I would have no trouble if I was stuck by the side of the road calling either team and say, run the event. And they would make it happen. And then, again, the nice thing is that we'd be able to press virtually any veteran into service for anything else we needed. So, I mean, that's a comforting thing. It is an event that runs itself, as far as I'm concerned, is a good one. When I found in my limited management time that the more you trust people, the more they will rise to that responsibility. The less you trust them, the more you micromanage, the more that they will uh, disappoint you and prove your point.
So let's talk about this year. A couple of tracks we haven't, or at least one track we haven't been to before. What are you most looking forward to this year?
The people. I mean, I don't give a shit about the racetracks. I mean, the racetracks. I mean, we'll see friends along the way. We have people that are happy to join us. We'll have great racetracks and nice transits. Sadly, a lot of the transits are going to be across Nebraska, or Colorado and Kansas. Just high points on anybody's scenic drive. Um, but we'll get into the Northeast and beautiful around Pittsburgh, things like that. But all the tracks are going to be good and challenging, uh, safe, as long as people stop overcooking 15 in the rain at NCM. Note to everybody, you have to turn right at the end of the straightaway, and it's very helpful that if you actually use your brakes. But uh, no, it's we'll be at Beaver Run, and I'll be watching the old turn 9, which I think is 15, with a kink that leads to the hairpin uphill, and see how many cars get wonky through there. No, and Hedge Hollow, everything I've seen and heard has been absolutely spectacular, and I can't wait to see it. It's starting to sound like uh, another Eagle Canyon.
Yeah. Yeah.
With
Absolutely. I mean, I know all the guys from Garmin. They're out there frequently. They love it. I've only heard positive things from everybody so
it
far.
seems
So
like
yeah,
there's
can't
lots
wait.
of runoff. There's lots of sight lines. Everything. And there's it's not. I don't know if I'd go so far as to say technical, but it's got these tricky things. And since it's not it seemed pretty straightforward. And High Plains is, I think, one of everybody's favorites. It's just a racetrack built by racers for racers, and I don't think there's very few nicer racetracks in the country, as opposed to DE tracks.
Yeah. So obviously, within 40 years, we've seen people come and go, and we have attrition of other sorts. Also, I mean, the past couple of years has been particularly tough with some very very close friends who we always look forward to. I mean, I know you have it looks like a tribute right behind you with Enrique's car back there. We had Jonathan this past year. I mean, you've obviously gone through some things. Myself a couple years ago, Bryan as well. I mean, speak
Reggie
for a moment
Loco
about
and Jonathan.
what's that? Yeah, exactly. So it's I mean, speak for a moment, if you will, because I know at a personal level when I had lost and was literally at the event 7 8 days later, right? It was the best place that I could be because these were all people of like mind and doing the same kind of thing that I would do to take my mind off of it anyhow. And it was the best thing for me. But talk about that familiarity and that just familial feeling that the one lap has.
For me too. I mean, it was only 6 months since my wife passed. When one lap ran 5 months, and it was and I'm I was seeing and still seeing therapists about it, mostly now because it's fun and I have great conversations. But up until that point, I was pretty devastated, and one lap again, the family, the friendships, the support was just. I came back kind of renewed, refreshed, still grieving, of course, but not with the same sadness and foreboding that I had before. So as a therapy it's fabulous. Because again, the people are wonderful and they're very empathetic. Now, if we could just make the rest of the country that way, we'd be a better place. But anyway, um, no, that part of it, and we've lost lots of people over 40 years, and even the ones I don't remember, I get Google alerts for you know, how many people include one lap of America in their obituary is staggeringly weird. But I mean, for a lot of people, it's very much a high point of their life, and I enjoy that kind of stuff. I mean, it's a good event, and it makes a lasting impression for good or bad.
All right, Bryan, I think we got time for about two more questions. Why don't you take one, and then I'll wrap it up there.
Okay. So 50, 60 years from now, when people go through the history of motorsports in America and they find articles or just mentions about one lap, what would you like for them to see or know the most about the event in the future?
We had fun. I mean, we, you know, we are at the forefront of street cars on racetracks. We were able to do it safely. We've been to 90 plus racetracks around the country. We were the first street car competition at Daytona. We were first at a lot of racetracks around the country. We've traveled a lot of miles. We've been to 48 states. We've been everywhere we can be, and we've had fun, and seen America in all its glory, or some cases some of its fury. We've had fast cars, slow cars, great drivers, shitty drivers. I mean, everybody's the same. It's a very it's a very, again, supportive, wonderful environment, and everybody seems to enjoy it, and that's why I do it, because I can't imagine not doing it.
So let's go from reflective to perspective. Let's say we have somebody watching who's not done the event before, who's been reading about it, picked up a GRM, have seen some of our live coverages potentially, and they're saying, "Why should I do this event?" What would you tell them?
Well, I don't know if they're interested. They probably will talk to people, probably read up on it some more. And if you're here for track time, it's not going to work for you. If you're here to have fun and to find the thrill of going out for one time and one time only, the intensity of the competition for that 5 laps is pretty high, and which differentiates us from a lot of other events, because a lot of other events you just kind of go out and you go out and you go out. This time it's all in the it's right now, and there's no reruns, there's no bullshit. Whatever you have, you're going to show, and however you finish is going to be either good or disappointing. So I think that aspect of it is important to remember. But most importantly, I think is the camaraderie, and again, exploring America, enjoying. And for some reason, people keep doing it, and as long as the people want to do it, we'll probably.
Awesome. All right, Brock, I'll give you an opportunity. Any final thoughts or anything you want to impart, words of wisdom, or?
Can I run away now? No, I have. No, I have no. I just ask that everybody that comes this year, tuck in the back of your brain that it's a long walk home, and things hurt. I want you to come and have fun. I want you to treat everybody well, and it's really all I want. I mean, I want to see every happy, smiling face at the awards banquet at the end of the event. That's all. That's all I want.
Awesome. Well, Brock, thanks so much for making the time for us today. It's always fun, and we'll catch up with you during the event, I'm sure, as well. Bryan, thank you again as always, and Bryan, my teammate, always having been there to support my back. He's my timing and scoring crew, right? So for the 2000, what's that?
The guy that protects you from yourself,
and from you sometimes. Yeah. I just hide behind him. For the 2024 Tire Rack One Lap of America, presented by Grassroots Motorsport Magazine, with coverage brought to you by Hooked on Driving, Everyday Driver, and the Valente Group. I'm Solomon, that's Bryan, and that's Brock Yates. Thank you so much for your time, everybody.
Have a lovely night. Cheers.